Okay, well, welcome to this Cabinet meeting for Newcastle under Lyme Borough Council's Cabinet. I'd like to welcome members. Joining me in the room are Trevor Johnson and Stephen Sweeney, and online Helena Maxfield, Jill Waring and Paul Waring. Also welcome officers of the council. And also, sorry, Steve? Paul Waring, Paul Northcott, of course, sorry. Always get one name wrong, just to keep everybody on the toes. Yes, and also to our, thanks, Paul. Also to our officers as well, and also to members of the public that are watching this. It is on YouTube. If you'd like to see the agendas, then go to the council's website and look at the agenda section. First item is apologies. I don't have any because all cabinet members are here. Second one is declarations of interest. Do I have any declarations? Not seen any indicated. Item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting from our meeting on the 13th of January. Attached page 5 to 10. Can we agree those as a correct record, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Jill. Item 4 is the Revenue and Capital Budget Strategies 22-21. This is the last stop before we take our budget to full council at the end of February, where all members will be able to agree the budget for the next financial year. All the assumptions which we had at our last council meeting, cabinet meeting even, are still in place. We've had a scrutiny session, which Steve will feed back in a moment. But for me, the extra recommendation we put in there is we're going to endorse our Borough Growth Fund priorities for 2021-2022. And that is £250,000 that's been invested into key priorities for a sustainable growth for the borough, for our local environment, and also to help our town centre recovery. We're putting 100k into our environmental sustainable strategy to ensure that the council plays its part in improving air quality, reducing carbon emissions, and delivering its services in an environmentally sustainable way, as we've committed to in our strategy. We're also putting 50k to address the concerns of odours that are affecting large parts of the borough and large communities within the borough. And this will enable the council to bring in some specialist support for it to monitor and hopefully take through an order if there is seen to be a statutory nuisance that can be taken through and taken forward. And then obviously the EA will then, the Environment Agency, will then come into effect to do their job, which we'll be forcing them to do if necessary. 100k for the One Council programme. This is to help us to make savings in the future, to take on board some of the different ways of working that we've had during the COVID pandemic, and also using technology to transform the way we provide services for the public. That's mainly stuff in the back office to streamline that, to save money and to improve the way we deliver services and invest any savings back into the front line of those services. Then lastly, 70k for our town centre recovery. Of course, a crucial time for the town centre as we hopefully going to be emerging from the hopefully our final lockdown at the end of this month into March. And perhaps even longer before we get back to some sort of normality. But in our town centre, obviously our shops will be open, our market will be opening, and there's a need for us to really support those. I'm going to put some money into that, working with our town centre business improvement district to ensure that we help businesses as much as possible, not only in our town centre, but our other town centres and also our high streets across the borough. All on top of this is the council tax increase, which is in the agenda as £5 for a bandee per year extra over the year. It's a lot less for most residents in the borough who live in lower bands. I think that's excellent value for money, given the investments that we're doing in those various areas, and also crucially building up the council's reserves. Again, this year, we inherited a very low reserve from the previous Labour administration that was really down to the wire. We built it up last year, and we're building it up even further this year on the advice of our officers, our Section 151 officer, particularly as we found out, everybody knows during the pandemic, services have been affected, J2 has been closed, income has been down. Luckily, our government nationally has come to the aid of local authorities with injections of cash, but we need to ensure we've got the reserves there for any situations that might arise in the future. So we're boosting those as we go forward. So a raft of recommendations there, which I'd like to move, that we then obviously recommend this budget to full council with our endorsement. And I'll bring in Steve now, who will talk about the scrutiny committee and also add any more details he feels appropriate.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the scrutiny committee were, I think, interested in the Borough Growth Fund, which I think you've top and tailed as you've spoken, so I won't go any more on that. What I would like to point out, though, is that when this budget goes, it goes out for consultation. And the areas of consultation that people focus on, that they think we should be spending their money on, is town centre regeneration, refuse, parks, recycling, and street cleaning. And I'm a resident of the borough, and everybody else in this room is a resident of the borough, and everybody on the cabinet is a resident of the borough. And I think they would all say, yes, absolutely, that's what this council should be spending their money on, and that's what this council is spending its money on. There's money in the budget for the Kidsgrove, refurbishment of Kidsgrove pool. I say the leaders just said that the reserves have gone up to 3.1 million, which is on the advice of our 151 officer. And I think it's a robust, it's a realistic budget, it's a sensible budget. I think it's a good budget for the growth of Newcastle, and I've absolutely no problems in endorsing it. Thank you, Lou.
And just to add, Steve, on that consultation you mentioned, obviously an online consultation. Obviously, one of the top things that people were concerned about and thought the council should be addressing is odours, particularly odours associated with the Wallace Quarry landfill. So through our budget support fund, we've reacted to that, and we've put that money in there for extra monitoring. But I say again, the Borough Council's role is obviously to investigate this, and then ultimately the EA become involved again via the Secretary of State, which will be lobbying hard if we require that. And of course, our MP as well. I'd like to thank Aaron Bell for his work on taking the case of odours to the national arena in Parliament, which has really raised the profile of this. And I come back again to the EA. They're on warning from me, and I think from the community, that they have to do more with monitoring, and we'll do our bit to gather evidence, but they are the ones that must act on this. Okay, I'll open it up now to cabinet members. Trevor first. Oh, okay, sorry, Trevor. And online, anybody want to speak on the budget? Please indicate. I'm not getting anybody. So we've got the recommendations before us. So can we all agree those recommendations?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Paul, and members in the room. So that will now go to our full council at the end of February to agree the budget for 2021-22. Right. Next item on the agenda is the Finance and Performance Review Report, third quarter, October to December, looking up to the end of 2020 there. First bit of it is a financial update, Steve. So over to you first for that, and then we'll come on to the performance.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'll be fairly brief, if I may, on this. Basically, as at the third quarter, everything is as it should be. And we're on course to we're balanced at the moment, and we're on course at the end of the year, another month and a half away, to be able to report a balanced outturn on both our revenue and our capital budget. And I think it's a tremendous achievement. Thank you.
Steve, any comments on the finance part of the report at this stage before we move to performance? I don't see anybody indicating. So we'll move on to the performance data. Paul, is this about the finance? Because we're doing performance in a second, but if you want to talk on finance, off you go.
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, it's just to echo the Deputy Leader's thoughts on this, and just to remind everybody about the revised capital programme that we've had to adjust, and that's shown in Appendix A for the forthcoming year, where we've had to make minor adjustments to our budget requirements. This is particularly prudent in light of the challenges we're facing, and it's a good, robust report, and this just underlines our commitment in terms of providing a robust budget, applicable and agile enough to deal with the situation we're faced today. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good point. And of course, the highlights in there are particularly the museum work that's taking place to expand the museum, and with the central bit, which is being improved, which will create a really good asset for young people and for other events which we can hold at the museum when that's done and hopefully open again in the summertime plus. Moving on then to the performance. The first area of performance is the local services working for local people area. And starting on page 117 onwards, first few indicators there are in Trevor's area. Would you like to any comments?
Thank you, Leader. Well, going by this, all right,
We had a few missed collections, which in their individual numbers look quite high. But when you think that we made 1,650,000 collections of residual garden waste, recycling and food, the missed collections come down to a tiny percentage. And this is already improving, considering the situation we've been going through. Shall I go on to the street cleaning? Yes, there we go. Let's see, level. We are doing fine. I'm surprised we're managing to stretch our workforce as well as we are to take it all in. But once again, it's got a nice star there, so we're all right. Okay. What else have we got? Where's it gone on me? Right, okay. But on the residual and recycling, we are actually outperforming every other authority in Staffordshire. So we can't complain about that. Yeah, just checking what we've got here. That's basically, we are back on track already. We are very, very few missed collections now. So I think we're in a star situation.
Okay, thank you. Of course, this is looking back to December, Trevor,
that's right,
and of course,
but I think we've moved.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So I think what we've got is, I think the situation with those missed collections is we're catching the last end of the snow as well there, aren't we? Or the first end of the snow. We had the snow between Christmas and New Year, which was obviously delayed collections. But we managed to really, I think the evidence of whether the new recycling systems worked or not is how quickly we catched up, I think, from that snow, which I remember a couple of years ago under the old system, 2 or 3 weeks into the new year, we were still experiencing missed collections and very unhappy people. We had a couple of days here, and then the team, again, thanks go to them, they worked over the weekend period over New Year to bring in all of that, those collections that couldn't be collected because of the snow and ice. So I think a very good test for our new system, really. And I think obviously the staff did really well working on over Christmas, and also the system stood up to the rigors of an extended snow period into the new year. So I think that that can take that into account when we look at some of the latter stats on recycling and residual waste. Okay, next one is the over the page would be the customer services ICT. We're showing a red in the number of calls answered in the and handling the volume. I think, as it says in the covering this period, we've got a lot of issues to do with updating electoral registers. Also, the housing advice service was creating an amount of calls as well, and also we were the new recycling service was being bedded in during this period as well. So again, it's never good that people have to wait, but I think there are circumstances there which are in the comment section there. My concern going forward is if we're reaching probably the end of this quarter now, entering the next quarter, is we do know we're going to have elections. We're going to have more people coming for postal votes. We're also we're going to be having some other consultations taking place in the council as well, and also the council tax bills will be going out. It always generates a large amount of inquiries, and also businesses as well through the business rates, and we may even be distributing more business grants. We don't know at that point as we go forward. I think I just ask officers to consider that and obviously plan ahead for that spring period, because I think we're going to be getting a lot of pressure on the customer services, particularly as then we will not be fully open probably as in Castle House for people to come in. They will still be using our online and our phones particularly, and the phones are still, a lot of people still need to use the phones, and not everybody can do everything online. So I'm sure Martin is our chief executive is taking that on board, and I think we want to see a plan for that spring period coming to us at informal cabinet to enable us to be ensured that we've got that covered on this. Moving then to any other from Revs and Bens, Stephen, in your area on page 120? Nothing to add. Okay, all of them showing up as green. Over the page then to our priority area number 2, that's growing our people and places. Bring in Paul at this stage for his portfolio area.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it's a healthy service area at the moment. We've obviously since November last year We brought in the Bradwell land and the scheme to extend the crematorium. The crematorium was approved in principle by the Cabinet and out for consultation now with the appropriate stakeholders and community, which will be reported to a future Cabinet meeting. Also, we've exciting things with the Borough local plan. We've now decided to go our own way in terms of that. This is obviously going to have a work implication impact on the planning team, but we're ahead of that, and also it hasn't as yet impacted on the speed of processing applications. We can, as you can see, Leader, we've got a very high target in terms of major developments. It's slightly dipped from our highs from last year, but nonetheless it's still in the high percentile and well above the 60% target, and that's across the board for minor applications as well. So that's really encouraging, and I hope with a fair wind we're going to be able to maintain that going forward. We've built this up now to a level we can hopefully expect this to carry on as normal, our sort of normal in terms of maintaining the improvements at a sustainable rate, but also across the property portfolio that we hold as a council. The indicators still within target in terms of investment vacancies of our own units, and it's showing well below our indication of 12%, which is at the moment running at 5.1%, which is encouraging in terms of this local pandemic that we're finding ourselves at a local level impacting on our area. So yes, across the board it's all stars of mine, and thanks to the planning team and the property team for maintaining these improvements. They've worked really hard, and continue the impetus that the head of planning, Sean Fleet, has brought to the team. Long may it continue. I'm proud to support it and be a part of it. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Paul. That's encouraging news, yeah, and a long run now of good stats for our planning area. And of course, as you said, Paul, work ongoing with the local plan, our new borough local plan, and of course that's, as you say, staffing considerations have been taken into account for that, and resources put into place for that to help you maintain the good standards of the planning department and also crack on with our local plan. Over the page, we're into our healthy, active and safe borough. Helena, anything to mention on the list of ones in your area there, indicators?
Yes, thank you, Leader. On the rough sleepers and the temporary accommodation, I'm pleased to say that our navigator obviously role is continuing, and we are, they are continuing to engage with our rough sleepers. We found 6 actually recently. Some pleasing news, whereby some who have persistently refused to have or access any help have actually been sourced temporary accommodation. So this shows the tenacity, I think, of our team and navigators, that they won't give up. They continue to engage and explore suitable options. Our severe weather protocol has been active for 17 nights during January. As you know, it's been extremely cold, and we have actually had access made of that, so that's pleasing news. And I'm also looking at further funding opportunities, in particular looking at talks with Stoke City Council to look at the opportunities for joint commissioning with regards to dealing with a more preventative approach of our rough sleepers across the 2 districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. That's great and encouraging news. Obviously, we've got a commitment to help people who are homeless, and particularly those that you don't want them sleeping on the street during this period or any period. And also, we've got a good service and a well-funded service to help those people who take our help. And then obviously we've got the rough sitters in town as well, who need to be addressed as well through other means as well, which I know through the community safety angle, our team are working with the police and others to help that situation. Moving on to the next raft of indicators, 3.3 onwards in the leisure area and culture. Bring in Jill for any comment.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, and J2 severely affected because of the pandemic. I've been giving talks about items of interest during the last set of lockdown restrictions. There was a steady flow of visitors. They were able to book online and were given time slots, and we managed to comply with social distancing. And the staff did very well to accommodate the 446 visitors we had during that period mentioned. Again, J2 severely affected. They have been providing online activities for the members, and things like the fees for people not being able to attend. They are being looked after in a number of ways to make sure that people aren't at any disadvantage. The membership numbers are down, obviously, but this is understandable, and it will improve once we're open for business again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Over the page then to our last priority, a town centre for all, and bring in Stephen.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. What I'd like to really talk about is the markets. Obviously, the market is scantily manned at the moment because of the COVID pandemic. But we had 2 artisan markets before Christmas, and they were excellent. The whole place was buzzing. It was full. It was full in a COVID secure way. Everybody's wearing masks. Everybody was going the right way. Loads of marshals around and everything. And it was excellent. It just goes to show what, if you offer the residents what they want, they will come, and they certainly do. And I just want to reassure really cabinet members that the officer who's looking after the markets is not resting on his laurels. He's not sitting back thinking, oh, there's nothing happening now. He's fully engaging with all these storeholders we've got now, and the people who run the artisan markets and the food markets and things like that, to make sure that when we're allowed to reopen our town centre properly, we will, for want of a better expression, hit the ground running. And the lines of communication are all there, and he's working very, very well behind the scenes to make sure this happens as quick as we can. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you for that. Yes, just echo that. Those markets before Christmas were really good, and the ones we held over the summer when we're allowed to open up the market. I think we must really go hell for leather to really relaunch that again. And of course, social distancing and safe ways of operating will continue, I'm sure. Just on the market officer, doing a really good job, even though the markets are closed. If anybody follows him on social media, which is at Newcastle Markets, a big following on there, and he's always promoting the market, even though it's closed, and the traders and Newcastle as a whole. And it's a really positive Twitter feed about the market, and just shows how we have a desire to turn the market around and make it a success. I think again, as we come out of this hopefully last lockdown, people will not be travelling further afield again for a while, and I think it's our town centre, particularly the market and the shops, can really take advantage of that and be a destination for people to come into town and enjoy the market, and hopefully when the restaurants and bars are open, enjoying those too. That's the long-term ambition of getting back to some normality on that. So that concludes the look at the performance data, unless anybody wants to add anything. I can't see anybody doing that online. So we'll go back to the agenda front page, and the next item is the planning agreements and community infrastructure levy, the SIL, and Paul's going to introduce this for us. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm delighted to introduce this item. It's been a long bugbear of mine that some communities are missing out on funds when they're expected to take development in their areas. Basically, the reasons for this is that the recent white paper has indicated there may be changes with the operation of a SIL, which is a community infrastructure levy, as opposed to Section 106 agreement, which can exist alongside SILs, but the white paper has indicated that there's going to be a review of this process. Now, it's not something that's new. It was introduced in 2008, and it's become steadily an alternative charging mechanism for councils to simplify the securing of developer contributions compared with Section 106 agreements. The levy is calculated on a flat fee. I'll get that right in a minute. A flat fee basis across the whole of the borough, and not on an application by application basis, which is a case for the present situation for Section 106 agreements. It's not been universally adopted across the country, but it's seen especially in rural areas where there's been a lot of development that Section 106 monies as part of developments haven't been used appropriately or can't be used appropriately, and they're expected to fund things like play areas, which aren't often required because there's a plethora of them already available in communities. But one significant change in planning direction is the compared with 106 agreements is where a neighbourhood plan is in place, and we've heard that neighbourhood plans now are going to be all the more used as part of the building blocks of local plans, and as we're moving to our own borough plan now, this is particularly pertinent that this part of it is we're looked at when it's reviewed at the end of the period. This is where neighbourhood plans are in place. There's an automatic 25% of the levy that's charged against a development, which sets out that they can actually use it for things like re-roofing the village hall, or refurbishing a municipal pool, or improving a local play area if they choose, or a community centre improvements, or a building of one. Where there's no neighbourhood plan in place, the 15% of the levy, this will be capped at £100 per household per year. Now, with the increase of neighbourhood plans throughout our borough, we've got 2, I'd say, already adopted. We've got 5 on the go at the moment in terms of expressing interests or making those initial stages, and 2 that are actually ready to go for Regulation 16. So this is in line with the white paper that has actually will set out aims, hopefully, that will be part of stronger neighbourhood communities. This will look at a way that even more affordable housing is delivered, for example, than the 25% that's set now for major developments. Now, the white paper probably won't be adopted in full, and it's recognised that the SIL process has been subject to a review on a number of occasions, but it's felt this time it'll be a full review that'll be probably looking at implementing this across the country, whether it sits as an entity in itself or alongside Section 106 agreements. But it's felt that this is the way forward, and including it in our local plan will be dovetailed for when the plan is obviously in the final stages of delivery. So this is basically I propose this recommendation that the Cabinet looks at this and reviews the use of 106 agreements and the SIL in light of the findings of the white paper, and review of the emerging local plan, and agree to review the developer contributions, the SPDs adopted in 2007, with a particular focus on the role of contributions have on supporting local communities, and especially those in where adopted neighbourhood plan is in place. So that is my proposal. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, support you in this paper. I think a lot of members of the council particularly will be interested about this coming forward and in the future. And I think it's we often see at planning applications. I think, as you said, Paul, 106 money's going off into things which probably the community haven't really expressed as a priority, and perhaps as a way here of bringing that money into better use. There's many examples across the borough where I think where planning applications where money has been received and it hasn't been, I believe, spent in the best way for the long-term future of that new community where the houses are built, for example, or the existing communities. And I think this is a way of doing that. Obviously, the white paper is going to affect how we bring this going forward as well, as it says there in the report. But I think if let's get on with this, and let's do it as we do our local plan as well. All these are the elements which work together to ensure we have a local plan that benefits the borough and all residents within it. So recommendation before us is moved by Paul. I don't see any other speakers. Do we all agree?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. And next item is the item 7, housing self-build register. Again, over to Paul to introduce this item.
Thanks once again, Leader. Yes, we've got a self-build register of sorts at the moment, but this is intended to create a local connection test of a new register, which is comprising basically of parts 1 and 2, and the ongoing administration of a register, including a charging schedule. Now, the difference between what parts 1 and parts 2, part 1 is to do with meeting the criteria to be on the self-build register, and the part 2 is meeting all the criteria in terms of meeting the self-build register requirements. That's explained further in this report. But the Self-Build and Custom Building Housing Act that came through in 2015 was amended by the Housing and Planning Act in 2016, requires each authority to keep a register of individuals and associations or groups of individuals who seek to acquire service plots of land in the local authority's area to develop self or custom build housing. This regulation came into effect in October 2016. They place a duty upon local authorities to make available enough service plots within their borough or district to meet the demand for self-build and custom building aspirations arising from each base period. Now, the undertaking that councils must ensure that they have enough sufficient, and I'll use the term shovel ready, to meet this demand, that they have 3 years from signing up on the register, measured from the end of October each year, to show which sites are available. The regulations also allow authorities to charge a fee. Now, in this case, it'll be £15 for a person to be entered onto the register for a base period, or for part of the base period to remain on the register on an annual basis, to give them an idea in terms of what's available and the plots available within the borough. Now, this will form, if we have this in place, this will form some of the demands that we're going to be placing in terms of planning future house building areas within the borough, where we need to develop a part of the local plan in terms of making sure that we've got demand and highlighted areas of land where this can take place. Individuals or associations that can apply for entry on the register and meet all the eligibility criteria will be entered into part 1 or part 2, depending on how much of the criteria that they can actually satisfy. The council faces 3 issues, though. Firstly, it's the manner in which it keeps a register of people interested in custom built and self-built housing, but secondly, how serviceable plots are identified. And finally, how have we addressed the duty to show that we've met the need for each base period, each annual year from October. So at present, the council does have a register, but it doesn't have the eligibility criteria, so the register is not split into 2 parts. It's proposed to introduce the criteria to assess people's interest and set a local connection test to whether they can actually deliver and whether this interest is viable going forward. It's quite a unique way, really, in terms of planning, and it also sort of puts in place and heads off the necessity to provide this as a borough council or a district council and the authority. It means a permission for like a multi-plot site can count towards meeting housing demand, crucially. And even if the site's not yet serviced, because the presumption is in place that services will be provided by a developer within the life of the planning permission, accordingly it's considered acceptable to include plots of land with outline permissions within the definition of a serviced plot of land. So there's no obligation on the council to automatically grant planning permission for a site if the applicant is deemed to fit to be a self-build development. But just it shows that applicants have got that interest and shows how it can take in all the relevant planning policies into account before approval is considered. So that is the recommendation in front of you, Leader. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any comments from Cabinet members on this? I know you've got the little chart attached to the back, haven't we, with the date of entry into register form as well on page 144. Have you want to say anything about that, Paul, at all?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory, really, in terms of what sort of things are coming through at the moment in terms of our local area. And to give an idea of how it may work in terms of a register. That's basically what it is, really.
And of course, the online element of this is crucial as well, isn't it? With those, there are a lot of these registered sites and which people can go to find out all about this information, and they're listed in the agenda, aren't they? As well as obviously this will dovetail into those and be part of an online offer.
Absolutely, and as I say, it goes part way to meeting our housing demand, which underpins the whole process of having local plans, etc., and neighbourhood development plans. So that this is a way of sort of streamlining the planning process down to a specialist level that they can satisfy the policy requirements. So this will help with a speedy determination if that's required. If it's obviously if it's a large application for a large plot of land, that will go through the usual route of the planning committee, of course. But by doing this, it gives that viability and validation to a planning application right from the very start. So there's an incentive there for people that want to self-build or custom build or group of people. So I'm really quite excited by this, really, because it's something quite unique in my lifetime at this council. So I think it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. You've moved the recommendations. Do we all agree the recommendations in the report? Agreed. Thank you. That's excellent. Item 8 is the forward plan. That's attached for note. We'll go through this page by page, if I can get my pages right at the moment. As starts on 147, obviously just tail end of what we agreed today, but then we go on to our March meeting as well, and really the important ones there are the stuff to do with the local plan at the bottom there, which we talked about earlier on 148. Statement of community involvement and the local development scheme, key building blocks in our borough plan, which we'll be bringing in March, cracking on, as Paul said earlier, to get this local plan off the ground for the borough. So excellent. Right, could we all agree the local plan? The forward plan, even. It'd be good if we could agree the local plan at this meeting, wouldn't it? But there's a little bit more work involved in agreeing the local plan. Item 10 is disclosure of exempt information. We don't have any on this agenda, which is, so there's no need to exclude the public. And then last is the attendance of councillors meeting and attendance of the public meeting. I haven't received any questions, and I'm monitoring the YouTube feed. We've had up to 11, 12, 13 viewers at some points on this, and nobody has posed any questions on that. So the interactiveness is there if necessary. And we don't have anybody attending on the Zoom neither. So with that, I think that concludes the agenda, and we'll call this meeting to a close. Thank you.
Thank you.